Yeah, considering I was here like an hour and a half ago.
I have like string function.
Like I know the Ajax, like I could just modify part of the URL to where it has like a search and just part of it right. And you could do some of the stuff here, but I think you probably have to
Already working on Spotify.
what URL you need to use. So using the Quest compared to Ajax, it really is.
Well, you have to.
It really is not that fine.
So I always have one.
It's just you know So am I on the right path here by putting it in this case? This
I don't need
part
the command. It's already.
yeah, because the whole purpose of the
So all
switch
I do is
statement
pass it.
is obviously to run the command based on the performance, right? If I say, you know, hey, I want to, node app.js, Spotify,
I don't actually pass the file.
so, those arguments that we're talking about, so let's say, most likely be the actual command, and then based on the command, that corresponds to either the Spotify or I think what I would do if I were you is within this case statement, I would have function and then store that inside the function. That way, with that function, you have some that function. You grab that constructor URL and everything else. So it's just the only thing I would do. So right now I have.
Thanks for talking about it today. I was pretty stuck for a minute. It helps to talk about it.
I took today off. So
All right, let's go ahead and start today's class.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll come back. Like I said, I would just glance at the Spotify APIs. What you don't have to worry about is authentication. Already, so you give it the keys to your handles all the others. The only thing that you will have to look at, depending on, I think it's just finding info about certain songs. So there's some documentation in Spotify regarding finding data behind the song. It'll give you the URL you can use and basically show you how to construct that.
But I'm not supposed to use
All right, let's see what we are going to look at today. So on Saturday, we started with constructors. So today we are going to still look at constructors, a little bit more advanced stuff. But before we go on to constructors, I want to show you guys something really quick. And this is important because it's a good practice and I'm going to be using that a lot from today. And I think you guys are there. You guys have enough knowledge so that you guys can understand this. So you guys have heard me using the word newer version of JavaScript, latest version of JavaScript. So before I begin, today JavaScript that is more common in your browser, that your browser understands, is version number 6. All right, you will see it's called JavaScript 6. Okay. More commonly, you will also hear this term in relation to this. It's called ES6 or ES5 also. So these both are versions of JavaScript, and ES6 is more of the latest one that most of your browsers understand. And with each version, JavaScript introduces some more concepts, some more stuff to make it more better. ES stands for ECMAScript. ECMAScript. Okay, it's more like a technical name for JavaScript. ECMA is an organization that keeps track of JavaScript and takes in requests and comes up with new features of JavaScript. So in short, it's called ES6 or JavaScript 6. So two of the things that are in ES6 that I want to show you guys before we begin our class, because after this I'm going to be using those a lot, and those are kind of very nice features. So let me start this. So first, related to var, okay, our var keyword. So what is var keyword? It's for variable, right? Declaration of a variable, and let me say I is equal to 5. So we know what are the problems with the word variable, right? It's not block scoped, right? Do you guys understand block scope? It means that if I have let's suppose I have this condition, and then if I declare var inside this if condition, it is easily accessible outside also, right? If I do this and I say console log I, right, what happens is so it outputs it. It is accessible outside that block also, right? But if it's a function, it's not visible, right? And you've heard me saying that if I declaring this inside, it shouldn't be visible outside, but that's how JavaScript is. And same with the for loops. We've seen if I say this var index is less than, let's say, 5, and then I say console log index, so this is all good, that it will output 0 1 2 3 4, but it's not block scope. So if I write index outside it, it's going to write out 5, right? The last one. Is that good? Everybody remembers that? So so it's not block scope. So for this, JavaScript introduced a new keyword called let. It serves the same purpose as the var keyword. The only thing is it is block scoped. So what it means is that if I have this condition, okay, and I say let j is equal to 8, its scope is limited to these two curly brackets. It's not going to go outside it. So if I do log j, it's going to give me an error. Okay. So it says that j doesn't exist outside this block. That's why it's not going to work. Okay. So this is the new keyword that is part of ES6 or JavaScript 6. It wasn't there before. So to cater to this issue with the variable thing, since it's a global variable, you declare it. Even if this var is accessed in a different JavaScript file, we know you can access it and it will start working as it is. To resolve that issue, they introduce this keyword let, and it's the same as it declares a variable, but it is block scoped. Okay, does it make sense? So now you can use this keyword and you can be assured that it's not going to be accessible outside. And this is how all the other languages have it. It was just JavaScript didn't have this. So in ES6 they have introduced this let keyword, which serves the same purpose, but now this time it's block scoped. Okay, I feel like at this point we have enough knowledge, we can appreciate it, that we have gone this trouble, but now if you have something like this, kind of like, okay, yeah, that's kind of nice that this is finally there. Okay, the other thing is, so I'm going to be using let keyword from now on. I don't see a reason why not to use it, or why to use variable anymore. The only reason could be that you are running your code in an older browser that doesn't support ES6. that could be the only reason to use the var keyword. But right now, you guys are using Chrome or even IE, the latest version, they support ES6, so your code should be running in both browsers, even Safari. Yes. Yeah. Andreas, go ahead.
So what's the difference between let and var?
Right, that's the difference, that, you know, if you declare var, I can access it over here. It doesn't has any boundary. It doesn't care if it is block or not. It's not block scoped. But let keyword over here, if you see, if I declare let instead of var over here, you cannot access it outside this scope. The scope is limited, and that's how this should be. That should be, if I am within this scope, I declare a variable. It shouldn't be able to be accessed outside this scope. This is only kind of unique to JavaScript, that var keyword was accessible everywhere. Okay, the other thing is, if I do this, let's see. Oh, because it's not visible outside. Let me try this. Okay, this should give me. Okay, so I cannot redeclare the same variable name. Okay, but with var, I could totally do this and it would still be fine, right? Var doesn't complain if you redeclare with the same name. You see, it only breaks it at j. So this is also kind of good, that it stops you reusing the same names by mistake. Usually it's a mistake if you're reusing and if you're declaring it again. So let keyword stops you with that too. Yeah, George, you had a question. George?
Did they just add that so that way old code that was using var outside of the breaking kind of the rules of the scoping could still function? Is that the only reason they added it instead of fixing var?
Yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, if they fix var, it's going to break a lot more websites that have built upon that principle. Yeah, so that's why they introduced a new one if somebody wants to go ahead forward using this approach. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? The other keyword is called const. So this is not going to work. And const stands for constant. And if you declare a const, it's not, you cannot modify the value of this variable. Let's suppose I have, this is a const. Okay. And that's how constant should be. That constant means that the value is constant, it's not supposed to change. Okay, so this is a constant, and if I try to change this value, let's suppose I say const underscore test is equal to trying to change, it gives me an error. So this is how constant is. Again, in other languages you will learn, this is how constant is, and I have made it uppercase. You don't have to do it. I could make it a regular one, camel casing, but everything with constant, the standard is you make it uppercase. If I see your code, it's uppercase, I know that this is a constant that cannot be modified. This is just the standard. But this keyword, and this is also block scope, so anything that is inside this blocks, same as let, it won't be visible outside. All right, so you will see me using these two keywords from now on, since our browser supports it. Okay.
How long has this been in effect?
I think 2-3 years ago, 2016.
Now people are just now starting to accept it.
It's been accepted, but you know, if we introduce this to you initially, you won't understand the difference. So that's why, you know, we kept it. there's a whole, I think, lesson dedicated to ES6 features. There are some more features that has been added, so we can look at that. Right. So when I first saw this, I was like, you know, my wife says I'm like anything. I'm like taking negatively first. I'm like always like, there's a negative part of it. So if I'm being positive, I'm really excited about it. This is how it should have been. So I'm like, yay, we have this functionality. When I first learned about it, I was like, well, it took these guys 6 editions to come to this solution that, okay, we need something. And I see, what were you doing in 4th edition? Nah, it's not priority. 5th, nah, leave it out. 6th, okay, now we should give it this up. Should have been done earlier, but anyway, here it is. So it's kind of cool. These things are, so that's why you see Visual Studio, if you do a autocomplete of all these for loops and all these, they kind of promote that, and you will see that they use the keyword net and const. It's kind of already kind of being built in as a good practice. All right, so these were the two, and this was kind of different from the lesson, so we'll get back to our regular lesson. Okay, so we saw constructors on Saturday, introduction to constructors. As usual, what we'll do, we'll start with a warm-up exercise. I'll kind of do this one so that you guys kind of refresh your memory. Let's see what this one has. Okay, so in this example, we have to create a programmer constructor. It has 4 properties. Okay, and 1 method. Now create a method for the constructor. Okay, so 4 properties and 1 method. All right, you guys can follow along or look at it, and I'll go ahead and code this so that you guys can refresh your memory. So a constructor is a function, right? So I'll create my function. I'll rename it programmer. Okay, and it was taking 4 properties, right? So 4 parameters, let's say name, position, age, language. That's what I'm going to call this. So name, position, age, language. Okay, and then I'm going to set these. This dot name is equal to name. This dot position is equal to position. This dot age is equal to age, and then this dot language is equal to language. Okay, all good till now? Yes.
Is there another syntax you can use other than this, or do you have to use this in that context?
Over here you have to use this. Okay, let's see. All right, so the second one, it says I need a method that will print this information out. All right, so let me call this method this dot print info. Okay, and this is a function. No need to have a name. I don't have to pass in anything. All right, and what does this do? This do console. Let me try. It will log details. So just to keep it simple, I will just say this dot name, and I'm going to print these out. So this will be position, age, language. Okay, so this is my constructor. Starts with an uppercase. It's just a function, takes in 4 parameters: name, position, age, and language, and I have 1 function that prints it out. All right, the next part would be to initialize, instantiate, or create an object using this constructor. And how do I go about it? Var. Since the var, I'm going to use let's say I'm going to call my constructor Bob, I will say new programmer. Okay, and it has, I have to pass in four arguments. So let's say Bob A. Okay. That's his position, but his age and favorite language is okay. All right. This is how I create an object, and then I can call functions. So Bob dot create info, and let's go ahead and run this. Space P, and it prints out what I created. All right. This is what we looked at on Saturday. Any questions on constructors? Okay, let's see the next one. Okay. Now if I have to create a new one, I have to do the same thing, saying let right like this, and then new programmer. Let's run this, and it shows me two different objects. Okay. Now on Saturday we also looked at something getting from the user, like getting this information from the user, and then printing it and then creating our object, right? So for that, what did we use? We used our Inquirer Node.js library. Inquirer. Oops. In the documentation, the different version that they had there. Okay, so you guys use this Inquirer, got the prompt, got some answers, and then created an object. So let me go ahead and try that. So what's the first thing that I need to do? I need to install Inquirer. So let me go ahead and say npm. Let me see if there's a package.json file already here. No, doesn't look. It's in the next one, but I'm going to start coding here. So if you guys are on the 06 one, you can do npm install, but I'm going to want to redo my code, so I'm just going to do it here. Npm install Inquirer. Okay, that should install my stuff. And if I'm using npm node library, the first thing is I have to do a require. Require see. Let me see. Inquire. If I don't have any typo. Okay. Let's run this. If there's any issue, it should fail on the require part. Okay, so this means it's able to find this library. Everything looks good, and this was kind of format. So inquirer dot prompt, then array, and then your answers. Okay, so let me go ahead and create this. So my inquirer dot prompt. Okay, I'm going to close this, and then it had a dot then. So dot then, just in case, we'll come back to that. And then my prompt takes a the parameters and array. Okay. So I'll do an array of an object, and then I have 4 questions. So I'll create so that I don't have to worry about these curly brackets. This is my array. So the first one is I have to do a name. I'm going to create it as a name, and then my second is a message. Okay. Let's say what is your name. Okay. My second question is position. So say position, message, what is your current position? Okay. And the third was age, message, what is your age? Okay, and the last one was language. What is your favorite? Okay, so I have my 4 questions using the prompt. All my 4 questions are here. The responses are going to be stored in the .then. Then I need to get those out and then create an object out of it. Okay, so my .then function takes in anonymous function. So this arrow function, we'll look at it. This is also part of ES6. This is a kind of new format, but basically it is interchangeably used with the anonymous function. So for now, we will stick to our anonymous function format. So I'm going to say function. Okay, no need for that. I need to pass in a variable, answers. Okay, this is where all my answers are going to be stored. And now when I run this, all my answers to those questions will be in this variable. Now I need to extract them out and then create a create an object. So I'm going to just copy paste this. I'm going to say okay. So instead of Bob, I'm going to give a more generic name, because every time you answer, whoever answers is going to create an object. So I'll just say new programmer. Okay, and then I'm going to print this info. Okay, let's run this first and see if it works. Oh, so I'm still hard coding, so this is wrong, right? Because this is now all user input. So I need to say answers dot name, whatever that comes back as, and this is going to be answers dot answers dot position, and this is going to be answers dot age, and this is going to be answers dot language. Answers dot language. Okay, so let's run this and see if it prints out. Let's see, Bob, senior SE, let's say 40, let's say 10, and it prints out. Okay, so you see we started with our kind of creating our constructor, then we created an object, and then we ended in using user input to create our objects. Now, however many times you run this program, it's going to create a new object. If you want a second one, let's suppose you want a John, then you can run this again and answer all these questions with John's perspective and his answers, and it's going to create an object for that person. Okay. Any questions on this part?
Would we be able to push those answers into an array for later?
Yes. We'll see that too. Good question. So we'll see that how to push that too. Any other question? So right now we are creating this just one, right? So what's happened is if I want to create a second object, what do I have to do? I have to rerun the program, right? I have to say node blah blah blah, run this again. If I want to create a third one, I have to say, oh, node this thing, create a third one. Okay. So here's the question: what do I have to do if I have to create multiple programmers using the user input? Yeah, you guys can discuss among yourselves and take few minutes. What do you have to do if I want to create multiple programmers? Simple, like what's the first thing that will come? So right now it creates just one object, right? You guys realize there's a user input, whoever enters, and this is created, everything is good. But now I want to create a second one, I have to read on the program. What if I don't want to read on the program and create, like, let's suppose 3?
Could you put a loop in there so that it would ask you if you're done?
Yes. Yep. So what I would have to do is do a loop, right? If I want to create 3, I would just loop through them and create 3 programmers. Okay, let's try that. Okay, is the response clear? So we want to create multiple. What do we use? We use a for loop. For loop is for that purpose, right? It loops through however many times, and then it would do something that is written inside the for loop. So over here, if I put everything inside a for loop, it's going to start creating those objects. So so I want to create, let's suppose 3. And I want all of them to answer this question, and then I'm going to create those objects. So if you guys are following it, go ahead and try this too. And I'm going to, or you guys go ahead and look at the exercise, and then go ahead and put a for loop and run it and see what happens. Okay. If you haven't written this, I think the solution should already be there. You guys can go into number 6 and pick this one. No prototype. I'm not going to talk about prototypes today. I'm not sure why they included it. It's kind of, again, it's a ES6 feature or probably ES5, but don't worry about prototypes. So pick the one no prototype. The code is almost identical what I have over here. If you didn't complete this one, and then go ahead and add a for loop and run this and see what happens. Okay, clear? So we are saying we need to add a for loop. Okay. So I have let index 0. I'm going to hard code this to, let's say 3. Create 3 programmers. We need this. Okay. Now all of this should be so these are all my questions. This is my then function, and I want all of this to be inside my for loop. So I'm going to remove this.
Rather than hard coding a number in there, could we have it so it asks how many programmers?
Yeah, you can do that too. Yeah, I'm just trying to simplify. Yeah, you can totally do that. You can ask a question and then do a process process RGB, get a number and do it. Yeah, you can do that too.
Or do like a do while and then have it ask at the end if you're done.
Do while, yeah.
So that way, yeah, you do it then it would end.
Yeah, we can do that too. So I'm going to start with the for loop first, and then we can look at some other options. Try the while loop. I haven't tried the do while loop, but the reason I'm doing the for loop is, if you guys run it, you will see what's going on. Did anybody run this with the for loop?
We're gonna break your
Yeah. that's the reason I'm not running it over. Not going to break your computer. Well, from Saturday, Fernando, I don't know if you guys don't, he ran an infinite loop and let it run for like how many minutes? 30 minutes or so? I think his laptop was started getting heating up. Yeah.
We just put an AMD core in
oh, bird.
They don't have thermal protection.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be possible to just do, and I know people have been saying just like ask and inquire, but can't you just save the inquire as a function? And then would that be possible? And then just call the function inside the for loop?
So save the function as an inquiry.
Save the inquire prompts and everything as a function.
Save the inquirer prompt as a function. Okay. How would that code look like? How would you save a function? I'm pretty sure you are saying something different. I'm sure it's not exactly saving a function, but what do you? How does a code look like?
Having it inside of a function, so you're just doing a function parentheses require, and then you have all of your requirements.
Oh yeah. So what Gabriel is saying, that I take this whole thing out, right, and put it inside a function, and then call my function over here, right, inside the for loop.
Right. Yeah. After it asks, I guess it would ask all of those questions. Like after it asks how many people you want.
Okay. Yeah. So you will have, for simplicity's sake, I will have a process.rgv, and I will take index 3, and this will be returning me how many people to create, right, for simplicity. So let's say I say 3, then what you would do is you will say for index 0 to 3 or whatever number this is, run this function. So this won't be there. There will be a function over here, function ask questions, right? And you are going to call this function, and you have defined this function somewhere on the top saying, well, this one will be function, sorry. So on the top you have defined function ask questions, right? And then I have some, oops, don't want that. Then I have some code over here, right? Code that asks all the questions. Right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely the better approach. That's a good one. Always try to modularize your code. So create a function, put everything over there. Yep. That's what we can do, and we will do that. Right. But at this point, it will serve the exact same purpose. Right. The more important is if you run this. That's the. So you see what's happening. So, well, this is kind of not formatted properly, but if you can see, it's asking the same question 0, 1, 2, 3 times.
When you respond, it answers to all 3 at the same time.
Yep, you see, it's getting, it's in the end, what is happening is, instead of creating 3 different objects, that was my intention, right? I want to create 3 different programmers. I don't want to create one with the exact same information. But what is happening is, for some reason, this doesn't stop at the first question. It actually asks all the same question 3 times, which I have an index over there. 3, if I do it 5, it's going to ask you 5 times. And then it takes the same answer, and creates the same object over and over and over again. Okay? So that's an issue over here. So the problem is, the most logical conclusion would be to use a for loop, but unfortunately we cannot use a for loop over here. And the reason is inquirer is kind of written in this way, and when you see the then function, it's always kind of tricky because of the callback and async nature of it. Whenever you see the then function, you can be like, okay, it's not going to wait on you, or it's not going to wait for the for loop. What is happening is the for loop just goes ahead, asks these questions, doesn't wait, come back, does the second one, goes to the third one, fourth one, does its job, and finishes it. It's kind of not waiting what we are trying to do. Okay, and that's the problem that you guys you will run into it. So what's the solution for this? Any other solution that you guys can think? Loops will, any other loop? While is also kind of loop. You can try a while loop, but I'm pretty sure it's going to run into the same, might run into the same issue. Huh? Yep, recursive function. So what's a recursive function?
Function that calls itself.
Awesome. Let me write it in a different one. Recursive function. Recursive function means a function that calls itself, right? And we'll see how this resolves this issue. So the problem that we are running into is that we don't have like a kind of stopping point right now. It just like keeps looping through, does all the work, and then gets out. Okay, so what we need to do is we need the first set of questions to complete and stop until we are ready, and then we call the second one. Okay, so let's start with the obvious thing, creating a function, as Gabriel suggested earlier. So let me go ahead and create this function. Okay, in this function I'm going to copy all my code which is asking this question. So let's go ahead and take this, then okay, paste it here. Okay, so this is my function declaration. For now I'm not going to worry about getting how many objects I want to create. For now I'll stick to 3, but that would be a little bit more further enhancements. Okay, and now since I have my function declaration, I can call my function, right, like this. So if I haven't broken anything, it should still work exactly the same. Okay, Okay, so it still works the same. So what I'm doing over here, I'm trying to make sure that I created a function, I put everything inside this function, and I'm calling this function. I haven't broken anything. That still works. For now, I know, okay, my function declaration is fine, so that will work. What is not going to work is this loop, so I'm going to remove this loop. Okay. Format document. I'm going to keep this function call because I need to call this function, right, at some point. If I don't call this function, then the declaration stays there, meaningless, doesn't do anything. Okay. So what my program is going to do if I run this without any more changes? What's going to happen? Huh?
Should just do it one loop, correct?
Yeah. Not even a loop, it's just going to call one. Yep. So, yep. Exactly. So let me go ahead and run this. Okay. Yeah, looks fine. We are back to what we started, but this time we have a function inside it. Okay. Now what I have to do is, I was saying recursive function, right? Recursive function, the function that calls. So what we need to do is, when I ask these questions, right, what happens is you answer all these questions and then it comes to this then function and then it goes ahead and creates it and then it prints out. And that is the conclusion of my first object. Okay. Now if I want to keep going, right, without this coming up or my code breaking, what can I do is I can call my same function again. You guys see it? Yeah.
Would that just happen indefinitely?
Exactly. You're right. What's going to happen is going to keep running. So
It's gonna be like my computer on Saturday.
no, it's not going to be like a computer on Saturday.
Could you
That's
just-
not at all.
You could just do a for loop at the
Yes.
bottom there.
Yeah.
The function, and then
Right.
do it however many times.
Yeah. We'll that's that. Well, not a for loop. We'll see a little more. But it's kind of your thinking is right. You have to have a breaking condition. The problem right now is there's no breaking condition. What is going to happen is going to keep calling this function, but it's not going to run like Fernando's computer was running. It's going to be a little bit more graceful. So I'm going to run it because I know this is not going to do what it is supposed to. So I answer some questions, current position, age.
You just keep asking.
It will keep asking. All right, you can keep going. It will never end. Okay, so we'll keep asking. So this is, we are kind of getting to the solution. We wanted our prompt to keep coming up, and if this is your use case or this is your program, then you can stop over here and this is how it will run. So I don't have to keep breaking my code. It just keeps asking me. Okay, on Mac, Control C, this will bring you out. So if I don't want to keep running indefinitely, what I need is a breaking condition. So one of the as Dylan was saying, you could put a for loop. That's also one. The one that is more easier to do a for loop again. It will keep looping and then it will stop. So what you can do is you can create a counter variable, like it counts how many times you have to call this function. If you have called this function this many times, and then you stop. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's suppose I say let counter is equal to 0. Okay, now inside my function, when I'm asking these questions, I can say if counter is less than, let's suppose I want to do 3. This is, yeah. And this one ends then. So I'm saying if my counter is less than 3, okay. So if my counter is less than 3, keep going ahead and keep asking this question. But the difference over here between this and for loop is for loop goes ahead and keeps running until it reaches. This, since it's an if statement, it's not looping through anything. It's just going to keep executing if you keep calling. So what is happening is, if counter is less than 3, the first time it will come, it will say, oh yeah, it's 0, so I'm good. It will go inside this function, and then this will get called. Okay, so this means I'm calling the same function again, and it will come up over here on the top again. And what is it going to do? It's going to check this condition again. Oh, is it less than 3? Yes, it is less than 3. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, so again, I started with a counter 0. Right now, the first time is going to be 0. It's going to run. The second time, what's going to be the counter value? Huh? What is it? 1. Why would it be 1? Huh? It'll still be 0, right? Yeah, because I haven't modified the value, so I'm still missing something. So it will still remain 0 because I'm not doing anything, right? I need to increase the counter. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Exactly. So that's why where have I declared my counter? I've declared it on the top, right? So it's kind of still visible. If I declared it inside this function, then yeah, it won't be visible. Yes.
Can we add a question? Like, do you want to do another yes or no and do it after that?
What was that again?
Can we add another question to the prompt? Like, do you want to add another?
Oh, yeah.
If off of that?
Yeah, you can totally do that. Yeah, you can go on those variation, get how many users you want to add instead of 3, 4. All these, this is variable, right? Right now I'm hard coding so that you guys can see, and then after that, yeah, you can ask these questions 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to create. Make this a variable that takes an input and then runs it. Yep, same thing. Okay, so I still need to increase this counter, and as you guys have correctly suggested, I need to add this to my value. So this is what it will do. It will come here, answer, and then it reads the answer, call this question again, this function, it will go inside, check for this condition, and then if this condition is true, it will keep asking, otherwise it's going to exit out. All right, so let's run this and see. Okay, 1, 2, enter something, and it exits out. Okay, so 3 times it did it, came out, and that's all it is. All right, and the questions were, yeah, everything over here is variable. You can add one more question here. Take this also as an input, that how many programmers you want to add, how many objects you want to construct. Based on that, you keep asking that question, create those number of those, or you can say if you want to continue, yes and no, and break. That could be a breaking condition instead of the counter. All of those are possible solutions. Okay, the main point over here is the recursion part. You cannot use a loop basically because it doesn't stop for anything, so you need to have a recursion solution so that you can have a breaking condition, and also you can keep asking those questions.
Can you put the let counter be the first declaration at the top?
Yeah, I put it on the top. The reason I put it on the top is because it has to be visible. If I put it inside over here, what's going to happen? Every time it's going to get reset every time this function is called. So I cannot really put it over here. So I need to put it outside this function. It can be anywhere, but it has to be outside this function. So this is like a true global variable, but this counter will not be visible outside this file. Okay?
And then at the top, would you want, I noticed it said bar inquirer, leave that the same?
Oh yeah, no, you can do a, my bad. Should be let. Yep, good point. Okay, still works. All right. So let's go ahead, and the next exercise is similar so that you guys can try this on your own and then, you know, solidify that concept. Programmer's loop. Okay. Oh, there's a array part also. Okay, let me see if I want to cover this too in this one. Okay. So really quickly, Dylan was asking about the array part, that I can put this in an array so that all these values are kind of still kind of saved in memory for me so that I can access it. So what the problem right now with the current code is that as soon as I answer all these questions comes out, you know, all of these disappear. Like I cannot go back and do anything. So the best, one of the solutions would be you can store these values in an array, or if you really want some persistence, you can store it in a file. But I'll show you how to. We'll just push it to an array so that it can be accessible afterwards. So that for that, array has a method called push, right? That's what you're going to use. Create an array. All right, if you guys are following, so go ahead, and what we'll do, we'll create an array, and this array is kind of visible outside, so I'm going to create it on the top. So I'll say let programmer array, right? Square brackets, so I am telling JavaScript from the beginning that this is going to be an array so that it already knows. Okay. And what type of array this is going to be? What is going to be inside this array? So I'm trying to store the programmers that I'm creating. After these questions, what does it create?
An array of objects.
Array on objects. Yes. So array of, exactly, to be exact, is going to be an array of objects, and those objects are the programmer objects. This function on the top, the constructor, this thing. Okay. So it's going to be an array of programmers. Okay. But for JavaScript, there's nothing new. You don't have to do any syntax changes if you want to create an array for that. So all you have to do is just have to push it. So I'm going to say programmer array dot push, and then new programmer. Okay. Just to make sure that we can access it, I'm going to comment this out. So that because I want this programmer array to be accessed outside, so that I can be sure that it is actually storing these values inside that array. Okay. So I have a condition here. If this is true, then this does it. I'm going to add an else over here. What does else tells me? That when the count is over, I have already done all my 3 programmers added. When that is complete, I'm going to go ahead and loop through that array so that I can be sure that all the values are there. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Changes all of them. Okay. So I'm going to create my for loop with the let, and I'm going to loop through my programmer array. Okay, let me format this. Okay. And this I'm going to how am I going to see this information? Huh? So I want to see all the programmers that I've created, like this, queue, these things. I have to console log, but it's not exactly going to be console log. I already have a function, right? Print info that does the job for me, so I have to call this function. So since this array is of programmers, I can just I can say programmer array index I, right? What is this going to return me? So when I do indexes, right, when I have a square bracket and put in a number, it returns me whatever that value is. Right now what the value is, it's a programmer object, right? So on each object I can call this function. Okay. And if this is right, this should, let's see if this works. So the first one, okay, so I didn't print out because I took the print info out. I want it to be printed towards the end to make sure that all my information is there. So the second one, I'm going to enter, oh, I forgot the H. Okay, let's go back to the third one. And in the end it prints out. So this means that everything was saved to my array over here, and I can access that array with all my values that are saved. Okay. All right, questions? So this is kind of saving those values in an array and getting it out. But if you want more persistent, we saw the file fs require module. You can use that, store those values in the file, then access it. That's also possible. But this is just in memory, so it will still be in your program, and you can access it later on. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and you guys can refer to these exercises and go ahead and look at the next one, which is called team. So this is kind of a little bit lengthier exercise, and we'll divide this into two parts. Let me press this, let me press this. So let's start with a similar thing, create a constructor, all these things. And okay, so let me tell you how far you guys should do this one before proceeding. Oh, did we already select the part one, or oh, it's the whole thing? Okay, yeah. So do this until now. Create a program that uses 3 players. Okay, do this as well. Print their stats. Okay, yeah, so let's stop at print the stats, and then we look at the second part after that. So go ahead and complete until getting this. Again, looks pretty straightforward from our previous ones. The only part is the user input, so you need to allow the user to create 3 unique players. So you have to do the inquirer, get those values, and then create these players. Okay.
Is this a group or
Let me see. This is a group, but yeah, let's do this. And there are only 2 activities, this and the next one. Both are kind of bigger exercises. Let's do this in a group so that if you understand something better, explain it to your partner, or if you guys both understand well, go ahead and do this. So let's do this in a group. since we only have like 2 activities, this one and there's the next one, but those are kind of, both of those are like kind of lengthier exercises. All right, let's pair up and do this exercise. The first part.
Team manager part.
This team what?
Team manager is where we're at.
Team manager, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Huh? And if you guys are, if your team is able to complete this in like 15-20 minutes, try to look around, see if somebody else is having issues, see if you can help them. I think it should take 20-30 minutes. Let's see.
Which you can reduce. So if you do, so you pass in your alter
So my thought was to call the recursive function.
Yeah.
But push its catch its result and push it to an array.
Yeah.
So you have an array that gets built, push it up to its array, and then it pushes this result to the array. So it's a and it's going to be slower.
Yeah. Well, your best way to do that is pretty complex instructors.
Yeah. That seems to make sense.
Yeah, the global array would be the best one. Unless there are some optimizations that those really
Well, 30 was special.
That's why we start out.
What if the number was so 49 or 50? So regular special. 41. That is good. My fire. I knew my types would go with this stuff. That's
If you're in,
That's actually all I have, like twice a day for a week.
if you're in Node, there's a lot of
And use functions for all of these. Anything that can be divided. Strongly suggest to start using functions.
Right. So you have the names, you have a position, offense will be from scratch. Property, we need offense, defense, and rest of it. Okay.
So you do this.
And then the game player.
Yeah.
Right. So it'd be similar to that. With those parameters. So I'm gonna do
Yeah, because you can do that. Right, and you can put that as a property of the object you make.
right into a plus.
Does the good sense?
There is JSON objects. I don't know where it's just name. old. That doesn't work here.
So you guys understand this part?
Oh, it's not managing. Yeah, it's down here, right? Right. Yes. Gotcha.
So the big game is
I'll give you the point flip. Right now, just peek in.
Oh, okay.
Just take it.
I have some
right
players. Good game, guys.
Is good.
Always not.
Is good.
So I'm only doing offense and defense. Position offense, defense. And then I'm coming down here, this. Excuse me, I already had it correct. Use this name, position equals
function equals.
offense.
It's just a visual. So I'm moving on.
It's from our own
Yeah.
Just use myself. No, part of me is buying tolerance. That's why I'm so this for business.
How do we do that?
You can also just, yeah, okay, but I didn't put anything after it. That's it, down.
And saying, I mean, like a random increase or decrease the players. It's fine. So basically, people can 1 or 2 times up or down. Which increases.
Oh, you put last player.
Okay, so basically we want to do a good game means either one, offense or defense is going to increase. Bad game, offense or defense is going to decrease. We have to decide which one.
You set it up here.
So how do we do this? Yeah.
So, last player.
A decision in code is either this or this. That's it. So then we just need to do a coin flip. We can create a coin flip.
I think that's probably one of my strong stuff that I understand. That will
Where do we get the one?
So, I was doing
Like where we get the one?
the reason that's
The coin flip. How do we do that?
I kind of brute force my way through it, and I use so back when I used to stuff like that. And then what do you do to make sure that I gotta go in between.
One best out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
You're mid 0 max.
So we use
That's
math random times 2.
Yeah.
Because we want it to be 0 times
well, what we could actually, so there's 2 ways to do it. One, we have player do this, or we can have the coin.
Okay, so we can go ahead and also let them know.
Or we can do player that pass it in.
I see where you're going. I'll do it something. Well,
So what I was thinking, so when I constructed an object like dog, right? So I had those parameters set to values on that. But then after that, I would have like this function here, and I'd create a function like for that in here. But it's going to be the same for each one. It's probably going to do it in there.
It sounds.
Because like this is only good to the dog. So like you always do it to that. It's going to be for every single one. We can do it inside the function.
If we want, we can do let is good.
Yes.
So it's one or the other. And we can do
Zero. Two because it's not zero.
because you only want one.
Right. We did four. So it's from 0 to 1.
So, and then what is print stats?
Right, it's going to be one or two, but you'll probably be there's probably not going to be offense, defense, is good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if somebody had installed Node.js multiple times on their computer, cause any system performance issues.
I don't think so.
Like if you have different versions installed.
No, I've got different versions installed. I don't have. I use NVM, and you kind of switch between the versions.
Right.
I have like at least 2 or 3 installed, but
I didn't think it would do it. It seems computers have been acting up.
oh,
I
really?
think that since we installed Node. Like
Okay.
almost every time you enter anything.
I think he was showing me. He was trying to run it in this one in the terminal that is part of the Visual Studio. See if he gets the same issue with Git Bash. You can run the same program in Git Bash.
But yeah, so we have different versions.
Yeah, if he can run the same thing in Git Bash,
And then you have to go
if it is faster, then I would use that. I don't know if it's part of Visual Studio that's causing it to kind of slow down.
I'm curious myself.
Yeah, try Git Bash and see if it's regular Git Bash. Right?
Then you can say, for stack.
Because what we did was we just
Yeah, I only gave an error.
No, that's not something that's the reason. There is a syntax that exists that you don't use, but that's how I do it. Daniel?
Yes.
Quick question. So, in our function player, we have this dot name, this dot position, this dot. Is there a syntax already prepared that we will loop through any this dot property
Alright, so how do we want to
of this player function object? Or would I just end up putting that into a JSON object and then looping through the JSON object? Called stacks.
So you are saying? Say that again. I didn't understand the question.
So, yeah, we just want to be able to loop through a set of properties in this object. The set of properties being the name, the player, position, the offense, all properties.
Okay.
Is there already a syntax that we're using this dot name, this dot, that there's a syntax we can utilize already to print those out, to loop through those?
Oh.
Or do we need to put those stats into a JSON object and then loop through JSON object?
You can do the JSON object one. I don't know if there's a syntax that you can do through the object.
Okay, so there's no pre-existing stuff for that.
No.
Help us there.
Or times 1
Okay,
plus
then,
1.
yeah.
think for an
Rather than doing a function.
Oh,
Yeah, he has.
Oh, sorry. I came in partway through.
You can do it for each and then do a type of. I don't know if this will work. Type of and see if it's a function. Just ignore it.
That's 2 players.
Try that. Yeah, try the type of. See.
So,
I don't know if that's it, but your type of is equal to. I don't know if it's a exact function. You can look that up, but if it's a function, ignore it. Okay.
You're not worried about that.
So you could go in either or each property is this.
They gave me that's
So that's basically the same. So you have one player itself. And then you would have to be this. So it's
right. That's what I'm
four,
thinking.
four property in player or four property in units.
No, it's less. Right, so is it still even here?
So we're supposed to have a function that's a good game or bad game. But if it's two different functions, one could technically counteract the other. Could we tie those in at the same time?
That person moves it. And then we do this. And then is equal to so actually at this point now you can just do name. And now there is the syntax where you don't have the comma, comma. No, that's to make sure that's correct. Yeah, I haven't actually used it myself as a C. So that's why I'm saying. Then open up here.
Why would you do what do you mean? Well, if you have a good game run, and then you could have a bad game run, why would you run? You already had a good game, why would you is there another function? Gotcha. Should you have a 1 point flip and get the point from plus 1 or greater than 1 that is a good game?
So you're saying if it's 0, then it's a bad game?
And if it's less than 1, it could be a bad game.
I think it's a chance of going only positive, and the other one's a chance of going negative.
You guys are asking about stuff there.
Not quite. So
like you have a good game, it's positively use stuff. But if you have a bad game, it's
our problem is your name position. Right, but if you we want to be able to move through these.
Like you wouldn't want to roll bad game if you have
We don't want to
Okay, so basically,
so we were just wondering if there's a short syntax for the
outside of that good game function, that good game bad game function is just going to generate a number that
loop through the object.
Right, so I want to play.
Sure, but are you going to run good games and bad games and do your runs? So you could then could be counteracted by your bad game.
That's essentially what that link just
So,
yeah, it's
Right,
essentially what
right. You cannot have the same.
not the Tom.
So that's why these two are separate. What's going to happen is, if it's a good game, it's only going to increase.
That's what I'm saying.
So first thing is, if it's a good game,
Now what happens?
it's going to increase. We'll see what's going to increase. If it's a bad game, it's going to decrease. Okay?
But your coin flips determine if it's gravity even
No,
outside of
yeah, that would be outside. But the question also says that there's a coin flip inside the.
Or name in buzz.
So there's going to be a random function inside to determine how much
So name is just a variable.
Not how much it is.
So it's not looking for name.
It teaches either the player's offense or defense property based on the game. Yeah, so you can put 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. I would say this, offense plus plus, defense plus plus. So there's in this one concept is determining whether you increase the offense or you increase the defense. This one is saying decrease, you have to decrease any one of them, but which one? Either based on the point.
So minus Bob has,
but we're not determining how
Buzz
much.
also has.
How much? Well, you can hardcode them like how much. You can do 2, 3, 4, 5 doesn't matter. I would, if for simplicity, just do plus. Yeah, plus plus. Yeah.
So if this, so Buzz here, we have Bob, and then we say, it's gonna come here, first it's gonna hit Bob, then it's gonna hit Rain.
You could try it. I'm not sure about functions. I haven't used it that way. I would imagine that it checks to see what type it is. Maybe some sort. You can try it. See if it works.
Then the only problem that exists from there, if you use that type of code, is now all properties are usable versus if you want some private.
Well, you don't really have access to modifiers. So everything's essentially in that wheelhouse.
Right. And then you can do it.
You can have closures.
More so, if you want to rate and this one, that's really everything.
Yeah, I mean,
For me, it's
that's true.
yeah, so that would work if it doesn't register as a function.
I'm not sure because I would just try it and see if it does. I mean, it is a very easy way of looking at an object without having to write this down. Like imagine if you have 100 properties, you see if those go close to writing it.
Yeah, it's exactly what we're
Yeah, give it a whirl.
So we can try this. Buzz has a property called Bob. So for each function, but now Buzz also has a so Bob is property.
Oh, so we gotta go find the
Then it's here, Bob's function get logs here or Bob's it's integrate whatever. So then it's here.
I know what you're saying.
That would be
Yeah. So it's the thing where you go like this. Right. I don't forgot what it's called.
Well, when I was testing it earlier, so now you want that. Here's a new stack. So first of all, you need to And then so it should be like then that is good. So like right now it's
Oh, yeah.
so that's
I mean, it's working, except it would have to be an if statement if it's less than 2. So take out that plus 1.
there's another one.
Right. So you could say if it's less than.
So if we go down there, now we can say 4. No, just 4. Because it's a JSON object. It's just a 4. Don't use anything like that. Just open up brackets. Then
You can just copy and paste that in a bad game.
bar
Yeah, so that's
stack or let stack. Let's stack.
Yeah.
Actually, player this stuff. Now stack is I don't know exactly. Nothing's fun or object.
So you just do minus. So math 4 times math 3. Yeah. So they might do it. And then you use the process. Just make sure you make this that I'm right.
So now.
This. Oh yeah. Like I said, just make sure you do this.
Isn't 1 and 0 binary, so it'd be true or false just based on player?
You do it. This is how they structure. I don't know. Or this is called
Yeah.
That's
So we wouldn't have to have that true, we just need the result.
Alright, let's take a 15-minute break, and when you come back, keep continuing with the exercise, and the remaining part is we'll keep doing that, okay? And I'll be doing the first part. It's almost done. Let me know if you had any questions. It's very similar to the previous one that we did.
Each one of these processes
Oh, I know.
those seem to be two numbers left.
That's one thing. Ignorance is bliss, right?
starters.
It's probably
as if you open the file and then you just sync. So it's not just open. That's the exact okay. So what that actually does
Why they're happening? Doesn't make sense why the rest of us.
like I said,
specify the type that will have because that's exactly like you open the file. Say that.
like I said, you will.
That makes sense. So that's what she can do. Open file.
If I were you, once you get home, leave your computer on, just plug it into the wall, and check it in the morning. So I looked it over, and it actually will return true for functions. But one thing you can do is you can just check the objects attribute type. So if it's type of function, you can go back to it.
So we can do that. We decided to go to JSON right now just because that's controllable as functions. So we can have a stack and not really solve.
Fair enough.
Mine, I still have
Yeah, that's pretty much the solution. Do type of. Well, that's true.
There's going to be a lot about it.
Consensus.
So there won't be the normal.
What is external?
No, that's how we're done. None of this. So once you've done it once, it's so you got so it looks like we're now going to this whole new set of screen factors. So teams so this is
good. I charged it this morning. Took it to work with me. I don't know why. I would hold off
I think that's what he was asking about earlier.
Okay.
So you can essentially iterate through an object's properties.
Right.
It will return functions too, so I didn't know that functions were a property of an object, which I mean does make sense, but yeah. So
Oh,
Essentially, it gives you the property name, which is what name is.
What
So it's just
name
looping through,
and
almost like looping
buzz
through
is
like
on
an array list,
Right.
or any sort of generic list. And then just calling buzz with brackets name is the same thing as buzz dot name. So
Oh yeah.
gives
Okay.
you the value of that property.
Oh nice.
So pretty nifty. If,
So in case of function, what does it return?
what's that?
In case of function, it just returns the function name.
I think it just returns the string representation of the function.
Oh, okay.
So just your function declaration basically.
Yeah.
So, or maybe just the function name.
Yeah.
No, because the value of a function is within the brackets. So I think it just gives you a string representation of the actual function.
I wonder if you can just call that
You probably
function.
could.
Yeah, probably could,
I think
right?
you could.
Yeah, that's what I think. So.
Yeah, it's pretty nifty, especially if you have like an object with 100 attributes.
Oh yeah. Yep. Nice.
So doing that for players, and then by the way, there's an offensive array, starter array, and subs array.
It's I mean the whole kind of
I get requests like this every day from jobs.
well it's it is open to interpretation. The only thing is like the whole solid principle. So everything's you have one thing that does like you wouldn't run a function that like if its sole purpose was just to print out like you wouldn't add any other functionality within that function, just that. So then having the subs array, you can keep track of them so it's easy to having just one array. So, but it's to each his own. I did it with one array because I'm
Yeah, I'm not that function that
totally wrong. I think it'd be
active.
Totally sorry.
I did. Alright, so what we're doing is that's two down. But you also have one in also so how do we get that?
Is that what you were looking at right now?
So this players, the team's total.
This name?
The team's total be perfect. So how do we do all the players? How do we get all the players individually? We've done it once. Here. This is how we got all of the stats. So individual stats. Yes, this got stats. So we're in an array, and they want to know on the break. How do they go get our notes? We have to go to each of us individually and ask us for our notes, correct? So we go to you first and say, what's your name? And then come to me, what's my name? So what? And then go to him. What's his name? So you're asking us how to get them? Yeah. So what do we just do?
Now we want to
So we need to go through all of the numbers.
So it's called a JSON object just because we're writing JavaScript. It's just, we can also just say it's just a
So an object tells me that you can do a function based on this is saying this is awesome. It's not. It's because so not every player block. It's in the way of the object. And we're going to call it a player because that's what we mean. And then this is just this saying that basically is a for each player watches this. And then I just saying specifies what it's going to do. So when we just want this isn't the design. That's the difference. So when you say all player so if I say player object, you're going to know that is. If I say JSON object, it's a format. Player object isn't the JSON. This is a so there's one thing missing in the description.
But then when you have
there's something specific about right, like when you're not serving the players. So let's give what proposition? So we only want to start with play game. So you follow along. Go ahead and you can recreate this or understand. So now we team's offense and team's defense versus a random offense and a random defense.
Well, so it does have this if statement.
So what is going before that?
Bad game. Well,
I got a question for you.
Okay.
Before I started following you along, this is what I started out. I got on myself. Is this at least on the right track, getting the position?
Yeah,
console on?
instructor is perfect, yeah.
Okay, and I was following you along on this, but I had this down here. I was following from the previous one.
Right.
Would I need this still, or was I?
Yeah, you don't need this. And then the for loop also will go away if you check this one, programmer loop. Yeah, and look at the expand this a bit. I want to see the whole thing. Just this one. Just this.
Oh, this one here.
Yeah, just this panel. This line. Last one. Actually, yeah, last one. So this is what you need. You can follow.
Oh,
This kind of scenario. So don't use the for loop. It's going to give you an issue. So use this recursion technique to solve the issue.
Okay.
This is
Cool. Thank you.
Oh.
And added their offense to the team's offense and defense. Right. So there's going to be one thing that we're going to do the starter is right here. So temperature. Start. Or we can specify whatever.
So the subs is, it says after the score has been changed, for the user to allow the substitute one player. We don't have that. We will look into it. Let's see where it is.
It's going to be the same thing. So we can read that player and reuse it. So I'm going to use the name share now.
It's like as if you're getting I'm honestly not sure how much data it keeps.
And then it's created by files and
Well, you could back it up. I'm not sure how long. So we'll have to like I said, okay. Yeah, that's a lot better than it looks like whatever we
it's helped right up front.
just takes down.
Or we might end up
So if it's even
That's right. Are you talking about specifically programming? I had a MacBook for 2011 until I got this, and I will never buy another Mac again. Well, if you're gonna game, if you're gonna use it for everything else, it's just like it's not even about the gaming. Like I don't really game on this. I have it because I use it. I can, but for me, the price I paid for a Mac was just not worth what it gave me. I mean, it's really bad. So, I paid $2,400. So, but it's also 5 years or something. That's 5 years. On the 6th iteration, no, it's a lot more than that. I've had that for 5 or 6 years. Yeah, it's been running the same as it was day one. I don't know what I did find mine, but like I said, I had mine for 2011. It goes so slow. Everything open and go to a website. Well, see, the older ones without like the SSDs are pretty slow. You can get C9, I think was the second generation MacBook Pro Retina that has PCI Express. Super quick. That's one reason why it's Yeah, I mean, it's pricey. Yeah, it's pricey. And the very next year, I built a full-on tower for less, and it outperformed it by miles. Well, yeah, I mean, if you build your own PC, it's always going to outperform anything you stop. Of course. But, like, just the discrepancy I'm talking about 10 times. Sure. Well, yeah, you can build out a MacBook for over $7,000, and you can build a PC for like maybe actually 4,000 or 5,000, and it'll outperform that thing like 20 times. But you also have to remember that that's laptops.
I don't understand like the same.
I mean, yeah, any PC is gonna outperform a laptop, but the laptop is sure I get that. Yeah, I mean, if it runs, I don't put it on hard drives and anything because I yeah, I mean, if it runs, why not?
Yeah.
That's not really cool. My wife does oh, you're on 7 still on 2? My God. Yeah. I think it's I like 7. Like it's like 7. I think they just stopped supporting XP like 2 years ago. Well, that, I mean that they did stop supporting 8. Oh, they did. That's because 8's a pile of shit. You have to upgrade to 8.1. 8.1's a absolute pile. At least they brought the stocks back. Basically, it forced us to starts on this. That's cool. Yeah, I have Windows 10 installed on my laptop. I think that's the first legitimate copy of Windows that I've had since Windows XP. I pirated 7, pirated 8, and then I got the copy to install 10 when I had 8. So it's a free license. Hell yeah. Thank you.
I waited on 10 and wanted all these capabilities.
Going from 7 to 10 is totally worth it. I would highly recommend it. It is so much, it's so much more efficient as an operating system compared to Windows 7. It's like wild functions. Oh yeah. I mean, apart from like the fancy start screen, which I could care less about. The OS itself actually runs very well. I'll give them that. They did a fantastic job compared to like Windows 7 and shit like that. Yeah, because I like the XP was nice because it was simple, easy to navigate, and then they screwed so much with Starly. That's my strong point. Yeah, I hate Starly. I mean, the lifestyles.
So I have the basic functionality on the screen. You guys are probably working on the second part also. Keep doing it. Maybe take 20-25 minutes. See if you can complete that. All right. The second part. I mean, you guys are already started on the second part. I'm just saying if you haven't, it's everything below this one. Yeah, below this. All these things run 5 times. Let me know if there's any issue with the basic, with the top ones. Constructor, creating players, kind of similar from the previous one. In my solution, I've used like 3 arrays. I've divided them. You don't have to. You can use 1 array and an object, anything that you think is fine. But I'm using 3 arrays, fine. Okay.
It's way different than what you have. You have a lot of travel here, and your butterfly mechanism. So like the buttons that the key sits on, it has like 2 little articulated kind of like handles. So kind of looking like the first iteration the keys kept working. The second iteration it's got like any dust in the keys and they stopped working. And so they finally fixed it. Like I actually did buy I spent $3,000 for a brand new
15-inch and use it for a game. I didn't like it. It's just not what it makes. That was like one of the major things too. Because like, I don't know. I can't spend that much money and not be able to ever just start it. But with the new steps now, check them out because you can easily grab one anywhere from like, you can easily grab one for $5. But I would say if you want to get yourself a good one and keep it for a long period of time, I would say anywhere between, you know, 1,000 and 2,000. But it's a good investment. I'd highly recommend it. And you can install Windows on it too. You can start OS X.
Your head windows on
No, it looks great.
Probably would. I'd have to do that. A lot of mine.
Oh, it does. That's all my dad's on there.
I know a lot of people that do things that work through Windows, but they don't have Windows.
And it's cool because you can essentially you can install Windows on like what's called an image, you know, an ISO. Yeah. So you can basically create an ISO of, you know, like an image of your, you know, Windows installation, run that through boot and it'll install as if nothing's ever happened. Right. It's really nice. That way you don't have to use a virtual machine. Because virtual machines are cool, but they eat up so much, especially if you like spec them in the same way that your kind of hardware is spec'd out. You essentially either use OS X or you use
Yeah, I was running a virtual machine, but on this originally my old hard drive. We just had the backwards compatibility, so you could run and I had to upgrade the RAM on it. But some of my software was
yeah. Yeah, and you know, it just depends on the hardware that you're using. The reason my laptop is so expensive is because I have an i7, I have 16 gigs of RAM, and I'm using SSD. So at the time, you know, they were pretty pricey. So, because I think the 16 gigs of RAM cost me like, probably it's $400 a month. Right. So, and then the CPU was another 300 plus the hard drive was like another 3 or 4 plus.
Yeah, so like that's straight.
But that was my yeah. Well, especially like the new solid state SSD drives. I mean, you're basically paying $1 a unit. Right. So that's how expensive it is.
6 years ago, when solid state was pretty new, it was like it was more than $1 per gig.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I think I paid like $200 for a 120 gig hard drive.
Yeah. I went on Newegg and I tried to see if they had any terabyte solid state drives. I found one and it was like $14. Granted, it was a server ready hard drive.
And back then, like hard drives were
yeah, like they had oh, this thing is like, I mean, this is like super teeny. It's like a little chip, basically. Very massive, you know, hunk of metal.
Yeah, the new actually fast too.
Yeah, check them out. You know, it's fun to use one too. You gotta obviously make sure it still runs though.
Yeah, I found this website. Just like the outlet or something like that. And it's all refurbished.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they're like brand new, so 30-year-old, they're out of date.
Oh yeah.
Sell them for a discount.
Yeah, and the cool thing about those is they're obviously, you know, Apple certified, so the way you want to go.
Like cell phones constantly just outdated, so everything else they still have inventory of guys trying to get rid of.
Yeah, right. So it's not that they're giving it to kids, they're trying to let us see them. So I've been saying, so,
oh yeah, what do you want to know?
well, it says I can use that Spotify API with Promise. I don't know what that means.
A Promise, you guys have been using Promise for a little while now. With the running whatever function and then zoning dots in. So that's you can try. Essentially, what a promise means is that promise will promise to return a dot to you. So that's why when you call a dot then, and then you have function data, have to do like
in the Ajax specifier table. So the function within the .then is going to return you a value. 100%. That's essentially what it means. The syntax is a little different. The .then function is just using callbacks.
Yeah, so that's what it's saying. It's omitting the callback parameter. Because if you don't know where the callback parameter is,
but at the top, JSON protein execute. What is the JSON add?
So your callback is here.
It needs to go
Your function. So that's a function that it calls once this search domain is fully finished. Instead, you can use search and then .then. And so this is a promise. So this search right here will return a promise. And you can catch errors. So instead of doing function error data down here, .then will return you the data. .catch will return you the error, and it will return you the error. That's all. You see, the thing with callbacks, we'll get to this a little bit later. There's something called callback null, which is essentially like think of having a function that you have to pass this callback function to, and then within that function you call another function which you call another callback, and keep going. So you have, let's say 10 as a function, each one of those functions has a callback. And so that's a lot of callbacks. And the thing about promises, so promises essentially steer away from callback hell, and that way you have one function that runs and then returns a promise. Once it returns that promise, then you can pass whatever data to another promise, and then that will return that promise. Right. Yeah, it's not layered. You can get in trouble pretty quickly with promises are much better. Yeah, we'll get to this a little bit more in depth. I think after we get through the delirious side, we'll start getting into more data. I don't know if it comes before or after Express, once we get to SQL and Mongo, we'll start using VM packages where you'll basically be building out, let's call it RM, and those packages use promises for essentially
That's how you got around. Stack 40 has no consequence.
Too large.
In this case, I think forward, right? Forward. Yes. This goal is more important than class on Saturday. It's like a switch person. With nice guys in place, they have like waiters and Yeah. Seven. The roll. Put it down the center. So good passes. Maybe for
I would say no, because it's sole responsibility. You would want functions to handle that way.
You missed the early Friday. Most definitely.
I don't understand the difference for why one is better than the other, because they're giving someone one is better than the other.
One is the story is variable, which is actually considered there is a big difference as far as this is concerned. Right.
So now we're going to get that. Now we're going to this is going to
Yeah, we can.
Number 3 notes. We're in number 1. We're in first number is and now we want to evaluate them. If the first number is lower than the sum of the team's offensive stats. So let's do. Just to make sure I get some offensive stats. How do you connect? Now, stop with knowing clean code. Why don't we just put in one code? Yes, this way. That function cannot be called until this goes all the way down here. So the first function declared up there, everything should go like when it's not then actually calls. It can't execute before it's defined. But it has to go through everything to hit this first execution.
It's just a function of this.
Yeah, I saw
One script. Always so like the way we describe creation of function is exactly what it's going to do. It's aligned to
Has any team able to complete the whole thing? Close, 90%.
Minus the sub part.
7 more minutes.
They won against the offense and lost against the defense. So won the defense. We didn't get
Team's offense set. Add 1.2
So our offense and defense players, we get just 2 starters together. Yeah, the only thing that you're trying to use right now is subtension.
Just want to find out.
And then
than that.
So it's
And then that was it for that. If the second number is higher than the sum of the team's defensive stat, remove a point score.
Yeah.
So the first one's offense,
It's going to compare that to, right? It's lower, right? Then there's the defensive stat, right? The defensive stat, the higher or lower, right? After the score, it's going to change to one column.
Okay, so after this, inside the sub function, when it's done, we'll call it. And then here,
it should have been if you left this because of what you want to run this and over that. That's what it should be. Now we don't need that. If that whole statement. So that's
because it's user. And this is how we get users. Because we want the user to tell us whether or not they're going to suck. We're not going to force this stuff.
If the second number is higher than some of
It gets the players passing out of it, so maybe
then subtract it. So we go so it doesn't need subtraction the score. That one scores to allow them to submit substitute one player for one player from yeah, so we didn't do any of that. Let's go ahead and display ourselves. So we did start on the other was our own question. And this is what it is.
Oh, wait a minute.
This is where you have two things which is used. You just push the team out the number to account into the subs one, and then pull that from subs one to the subs. We're going to do it slightly different. What we're going to do is
Now it's yeah.
Yes. The short answer is for each and for the difference is for each action use the individual objects that's very here I just get the object as a player. So I don't have to do players.high. I
picked up on that one word real quick.
I think give kind of variable. It's variable. Yeah, one.
But even if I did So you're gonna got it right. You just ask all the questions on it.
Okay. Any team now was able to complete it, or at least some percentage, 90, 80%?
75.
75. Okay.
1%.
1%. Okay. So I have the basic solution out. Is there any question on the basic one? So the basic solution is same as what we did in the previous exercise, and that's the more important one. I want to make sure that you guys understand the recursion part, using the input to create those objects. That's the most important part. The second part is more like kind of gives you something to do, something more complex. Try to solve that solution. I'll upload that solution, and you guys can look at it. But if somebody has done more, you guys would like to show the code. I saw some different approaches, and I'll upload the solution. It's not as efficient as I heard some of the other teams that are working. Any one of the teams would like to come up and just show their code and kind of walk through it for like 5 minutes. I just want to see what different solutions for you have, other than the basic one. Okay, you guys want? Huh? Yeah. Come over. I can take my computer out. What was that? I have this. Do you have USB-C?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have USB-C. You cannot escape. Yeah, just kidding. So these guys will show the advanced one. Just see, there are different solutions for it. Let's see what these guys came up with.
Okay. So, I don't know. Where should we start?
At the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is our
Can make it a little bit bigger. But
like
9 plus plus. Yeah.
it is. Looks like an access all this stuff from.
Smaller, right?
Yeah. That's what I heard.
You want more on the screen.
How's that, guys?
You go ahead.
You guys can see?
Sure.
Solid. All right. All right. So here we made the. This is our constructor, and the different properties that our players can have. And then we had this great idea. Aaron had this great idea of making like a JSON object of stats, so we could loop through the stats of each player, so we didn't have to call them each out. And
So the purpose of doing that is also so that we don't display all the stats. We could hard code each stat. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to be able to loop through them. We chose the JSON object route because it'll also, these are displayable stats. We wanted more stats to the players' health conditions that don't want to be public for people to call. We can create a new object, new JSON object for health conditions and other stuff that wouldn't be displayed along with it. So that's just future proofing or kind of categorizing those inputs.
here's our good game function that takes a random number between 0 and 1 because we use the math.for. So it'll never be 2. And then increments are offense or defense of the player. And then bad game is the opposite of that. And then our print stat function utilizes that JSON object we were just talking about, so we can do a for loop that will just give us each of the stats in the stats object, and then print out the name and the value of the stat. This will print all the stats for all of the players. So this is our players array, and then it calls print stats for each of them, which is the function I was just talking about. And then just like in the assignment that we covered along with him, we did ask questions, and we were being lazy and just made 2 players. But that'll So once we've made the 2 players, this will run our play game function, and we use the inquirer to get the stats from the user.
Yeah. So one small change we made here to its original form is that we had our exit condition at the top, so we can clearly see as a program when we come in here, this is where we're going to end. So right after here, we meet our exit condition, we execute the code that needs to run, and we return. We don't continue to evaluate the rest of the code, and you don't have to continue looking through the code to figure out what that exit condition is if you don't end up with nested, more nested code. So it was just personal thought, but I think it kind of keeps your code a little bit more cleaner, a little bit more tighter, versus having an exit condition up on the top, and then what to do when you exit at the bottom. Kind of, it sums it all up a little bit closer, so a little point there.
And then, yeah, like I was saying, we use the inquirer to get the input from the user, and then we make a new player. But I copied the code from the last one, so it's a programmer, and add them to the player array. And then that increments our counter and ask the question again. And this is our game. So we have a score of 0 when we start, and then this loops through the game 5 times, and gets our first number and our second number, which we're going to compare to the offensive total and defensive total of the team. And we made functions for those so that we could, again, loop through our player array and get the offensive total and the defensive total. And then we pass it, offense or defense. And if they, when they get a point, they lose a point. And then we print our score. That's it. Any questions?
So I love how you guys have divided everything into functions. Even the random number one, that's really good because you can keep calling, keep reusing that. So that's really nice. And then I love how you guys have divided the code of keep going up. Yeah. So everything is like modularized, and you guys are reusing those functionalities so you can keep calling them. Okay, that was it. Do you guys mind sharing the same solution on Slack? Okay, so this is I'll upload the other solution. It's definitely not nice as this one. I really love this one. Let's see if I can get back. Yes.
I was going to ask you, how would you do the subbing? You have to substitute a player with all the requirements. Run it as a function, or add and subtract from an array, or two separate arrays.
Let me bring this up. Okay. How would you substitute the player? How are you guys doing it? Didn't get that. Okay. Okay. Let me open this. So let's see. The first is printing out initialize players. Okay. This is the offense. Okay. So it's the same as you're saying. It's another question answer, and then ask if you want to substitute it, and then at the answer, we are changing the array, the subs array. If you are using that approach, if you have 3 different arrays. You can change your sub array that you have as a global object and then change the name and replace it with a new one. That would be one solution that I can think of over here. Okay. If you're going to object route, it will be a little bit different, but kind of similar, that you have to basically pop your current player out and push the new one in as a substitute.
Is that kind of like exchanging between two, like,
Yeah. Yep. Okay. There's one more thing before we end this, and I'll go ahead and upload this solution. And again, the more important one from this one is the creation of the constructors, the recursion part. I want to make sure everybody at least got to that part. Okay, any questions on the basic one, on the recursion part, constructor creation, asking questions from the user and then creating those objects? Okay, be careful when you're using for loops in this situation. That's what we saw that, especially with the function that are using then, the async part comes in, and that's why it kind of skips over and it was creating multiple objects. Okay, now before we end, let me show you one more thing. So this is more like you can do all of this in just like one file. Let's suppose you have multiple constructors. So I'm going to create let me create a new folder here. And I'm going to create a file, let's say movie.js. Okay. cd okay. So your same file can have multiple constructors also, right? You can have multiple functions. So let's suppose I have one constructor called movie, right? And I have, let's suppose, movie name and genre. Okay, now I'm going to assign these two really quickly. Movie name. Okay, so usually we were creating function and the function name. Since constructor is another function, right, you can also create it like this. It does the same purpose. It's just like a different syntax. This would help in what we are trying to achieve. So now what I can do is I can call this constructor in a different file. Okay, let's suppose I create a new file called main.js. Let me call it mn so that I can type this in real quick. Okay, now this is helpful when you have like multiple constructors and you want to create separate files. You guys did it in your project. You were like creating separate files for each module. So this is how you do it in Node.js. What you can do is, what I want to do in this main.js is I want to create my let's suppose we'll create a movie, and I want to do this new movie, and it was suppose action. Okay, now I want to do this. The problem over here is that my constructor is not over here, but it's in a different file. So how do I, come on. So how do I do this? We saw in Node.js when we are using other modules, what we were doing is we were saying we are putting a module name over here, right, is equal to require. We can do the same thing here, and we can tell Node that our file is movie.js. Okay, so what is it doing? Dot slash looks up in this folder, finds a movie.js file, and then imports this constructor from there. Okay, there's still something missing. Let's run this and see what happens. So now I want to run my okay, so it still says movie is not a constructor. But on this part, this is done. I don't have to do anything over here. But what I want you to see is require. We were using inquirer module. We looked at the FS module, right? All of those were there, so it's similar. You are saying look into this module, and this is over here. So the only thing missing from this module is at the end, this is a node syntax. So you will say module.exports is equal to your name of your constructor that you're trying to export. Okay, let me run this and I'll come back to this one again so that you guys can. Okay, so no error, this means it's running. I don't have any console log, that's why it doesn't run. Okay, so now what I'm doing is I'm dividing my constructor in a different file, and you've seen this, but we've been using some third-party modules. That's why this is how it works. Behind the scene, what is happening is it exists somewhere, and they are, if you look up, if they're open their code, they are doing this. That's why you have access to all their modules, all their functions, if they are exposing any constructors. So what I'm doing over here is I'm creating a file called movie.js, right? In this file, I have a constructor, and I'm saying export this constructor. What I'm saying over here is that make this constructor visible to anybody who requires my file. Okay. Now in my main file, what I'm doing is I'm saying any name, right? You can put it as movie, lowercase, uppercase, m, doesn't matter. Then I say require, and then look up this file. And this file is in the same folder, so I did a /movie.js. If it was in a different folder, you would say // and find that file. Okay. Yes.
Could we install that, like, say, in a folder that's up higher, so kind of like a global install, so anything that was underneath that?
You can do that. You can move this up, move this JS file up, and what you would do is then you would say // wherever that file is, and find that file. There's no installation.
Could you do the same thing with the npm that way?
npm?
Or let's say inquirer?
Yeah, you can do that. You can go up a folder and do an npm install. So wherever you do an npm install, that's where it's going to make your folder. The node_modules folder.
You generally want it to root.
Yeah. I'm just saying, but it's possible. You can go up folder up and do an npm install. It's going to install over there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's looking at this path. Wherever this path is, that's where it's going to get installed. And that's the local install. -g is the code data friend and installing the user / somewhere. Okay. So even in a node module that we have been looking at, they are doing the exact same thing. Well, they're doing a lot more because you have to install everything. But basically in their code, they are exposing this using module.exports and all the methods, all the functions that they want to expose. This is how they're exporting it. Okay, and then you can refer to that in your file over here. Any questions? So this is the point over here is, if you want to keep your file simple. Right now I have one. What if I have like let's suppose I have one more constructor here. And this one is called let me call this cast members, right? I have the same thing. I could put a gender, name, right? this dot name. Right, so and I can do the same thing. It was module dot export like this over here. Same thing. This time I'm exporting this thing. Exports is equal to cast member. Okay. Now it doesn't have to be even this file. It could be in my movies.js. Maybe I have a cast member variable over here. For example, let's say this dot cast member. Okay, and then I can call this cast member. Say I have an array cast. Okay, and then this dot add cast. Okay, so this is a function that is inside my movie.js. It's adding the cast members, and my cast, I have an array, so I'm going to say this dot cast dot push, and in this I can call my constructor, which is cast member. I can do this new cast member, and then it expects this and something like this. Okay, I can totally do this. The only thing missing over here is that I haven't included my require on the top. Okay, I can do the same thing. I will say let cast member is equal to require. Then I can do /cm. Okay, so you see I'm actually doing this, but inside movie.js I'm using another constructor which is somewhere else, which is over here. So you know, it kind of going deeper. So my movies, my main file doesn't even know there's a add cast member or there's a constructor over there, but to me it comes back together. It's just like inside this one I've created another function. Yeah.
To add the .js and CM, it will already.
Oh yeah, you have to do the JS. Sorry. Yeah. .js. Yeah. Okay. Now you can do different things. This is just a constructor. You can do variables. You can expose variables, regular functions, all that kind of stuff. But this is how you would do it.
Would we want to use var in that instance instead of let?
I know you would use let. So what happens is this is what you're exposing. So it will come here and then it will be available. This thing is making it global. This keyword. Okay. So this was just the last topic so that you guys can see if you want to modularize, when you're doing your project or assignments, if you want to distribute, you know, so that you don't have like just one giant JS file. You can kind of break down your code, put it into a different file. Important part is module.exports and then using the require keyword. And these are both part of Node.js. Not part of JavaScript, it's part of Node.js. Okay, this is how Node.js does it. Okay. Let's do a last 15-minute exercise. It's around the same thing, and that will be the last one. Oops. Okay. Straightforward to create two constructors, put them in a different file, and then call them. Okay. Two constructors. Second constructor is a function called classroom, similar to the movie one. They're using student and classroom. Two constructors, two different files. The third file would be your main file. Oops. Huh? Oh, you guys can do this exercise as a team also. Yeah, that'd be nice. You know, I think it will go a little bit faster if you do it as a team. Discuss it, do it like last 10 minutes. So I'm going to create the JS files first. Student classroom JS, and then main.js. Okay, so in the student one, name of the student. Okay. Function name favorite. GPA. What's up? Since I'm going to export this, I'm going to write a module dot exports student. Okay, go back to my this is just to test if this works. Require student. Okay, so this looks good. I did a student, exported it, works fine. Let's see, classroom. Classroom is room number. Okay, it has an array of students. Professor name. Number. Then I have a function called add student. A function. Okay. This function takes in a student name, favorite subject, and then GPA. I have a students array. I'm going to push it. Let me create a new student. Okay. To create a new student, but I don't have this added here. So let me go ahead and just say let student is equal to require okay. I can use this constructor. I need to pass a name, favorite subject, and JPA. So I need to export this to export dot. What was that?
Did what?
So now we go with now like this. Let's go over to
Yeah. Yeah. The array is declared here, line 4.
yeah.
Okay, let's see, I have classroom. Go back to my classroom. I am exporting classroom and importing student. Exporting student. Yeah.
And I export it. I don't know if that's well, you know what? This needs to be now. But then,
this way. And that would be go to use. What other next requirement?
Oh yeah.
should be the same. Yeah.
Because if they get you,
Everybody's gotta watch out.
it's very.
You're right.
Element is students. So you're gonna ask if you guys work with that, we're gonna do
Never seen it, but I know it's
four, three is people, and then.
So for this
So
one,
that
on Thailand, so I don't know.
it's like a farm.
You know, like it's it's like a girl.
So you're
I don't know if I'm missing it.
So you have the require, you have the
And then that being out here, that's the point that me, I'm a skeptic. You saw that crap.
Yeah, I got it to work. I just had to change that char one, or new char to a character that apparently has to match what this is. So this was this.
yeah, this has to match.
You have to add
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought this had to match that. So I just have it mixed up.
Because if you put let over there, right, it's not exposed anywhere. All right, I'll see you guys Thursday. There'll be callback and constructors again.
Why can't it be like? I mean.